And I appreciate the fact that all of you are here, because we should be doing different things on Valentine's Day other than attending satsang. But all of you have chosen to come here to be part of this satsang, so I appreciate your presence. And Pandaji and Debrashiji and Abha for hosting this satsang on this special day. When Valentine's Day comes around, what do you think of? What do you think of around this today?
Love.
Love. And?
Roses.
Roses. See, now we're becoming more honest.
Chocolate.
Chocolates.
Parties.
Hearts. Keep going.
Teddy bears.
Teddy bears.
Cards.
Cards.
Dinners.
Dinners.
Parties.
Parties.
Diamond ring.
Diamond ring.
I'm just waiting for someone to say a waste of money. I'm sure I read this to you before, but I'm also sure that you've forgotten, so I'm going to read it again. This is a satsang that I got a chance to be part of with Swami Advaitananda a year and a half ago, and he had asked us, you respond, what is the most selfish one-letter word?
I.
I.
Yeah.
And the guidance is, avoid it. The most satisfying two-letter word.
Me.
We. See, some people said me. We. And the message is, use it. The most poisonous three-letter word.
You.
Good, but something else. We study this a lot in Vedanta.
Ego.
Ego, correct. And the message is, overcome it. And now why I wanted to bring this up, the most used four-letter word?
Love.
Love. And the message here is, value it. On Valentine's Day, we think about love, but see everything that came with that love? Everything we mentioned were objects, circumstances. No one mentioned sacrifice, gratitude, and so on. This is what society has made us believe Valentine's is about. You said it. I didn't put those words in your mouth. So I may as well continue. The most pleasing five-letter word. Close. If you're
Smile.
smile. Yes, the most pleasing five-letter word is smile. And the message is, keep it. Doesn't matter what happens, as Gurudev has taught us. What is our Balavar motto? Keep smiling. And there's 100% return when it comes to smiles. If you smile at someone, the tendency is that they will smile back. We do this with our Balavar students sometimes. Everyone has to sit in a circle and then close their eyes, and when they open, they're not allowed to smile, and everybody smiles then. And if someone doesn't have one, give them yours then. That's the power of a smile. The most fast-spreading six-letter word.
Gossip.
Gossip, or British spelling, rumor. And the message here is, ignore it. The most hard-working seven-letter word. In our corporate environments, this is always stressed.
Service.
Success.
Success. See, this is not just an intellectual exercise, it's grammar too, it's spelling. Success. And the message here is, achieve it. The most burning eight-letter word. If you have this, you burn.
Jealousy.
Jealousy. And the message here is, distance it. The most powerful nine-letter word. This one is wonderful.
Sacrifice.
Happiness. Beautiful.
Keep thinking. Most powerful nine-letter word.
Courage.
When Swami Vivekananda came to the West, this is all he had and nothing else. Knowledge. Knowledge is the most powerful 9-letter word. He came with no wealth. He only came with knowledge. Even when he spoke only with knowledge. He had nothing else. There was no preparation. But see how fearless he was, how fearless he is. His 150th birthday was on January 12th. Even now, we remember his fearlessness. The message here is acquire it. And the most valued 10-letter word? Most valued 10-letter word.
Happiness.
Friendship. Maintain it. The purpose of Valentine's Day is to express our love not just to our significant other, but love in every direction. That's why I was quite happy today. I heard of a father who bought flowers not only for his wife, but also for his child as well. Because we traditionally think just for one significant other. And it's the same purpose that comes with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving in November. Society has made it as a time to watch football and overeat and do this and that. But Thanksgiving literally means to give thanks in every direction. In our scriptures, there's a beautiful way to offer thanks on a regular basis. It's called the Pancharenas. Have you heard of the Pancharenas before?
Yes.
Even if we've heard it, it's wonderful to hear again and again and again. Rina means debt. And every human being, other than those who are enlightened, are indebted to these 5 parties. Until we are enlightened, we are takers. When we are enlightened, we become givers then. These 5 debts are actually 5 reasons to be grateful. And so we begin with that which is furthest from us. That is called the Devarina. The debt we owe to nature's forces. Gravity, the sun, wind, all of nature's forces. If there was no gravity, what would happen to you? If there was no gravity? You'd go. You'd be there one moment, you wouldn't be there the next moment. Rain. I heard a beautiful quote that said, too much rain is when the fish eat ants. Too little rain is when the ants eat fish. That's the balance of rain. Even, I don't know if you've been hearing that there's an asteroid that's only 17,000 miles away from Earth right now. And on NPR they're sharing that they have technology to divert such asteroids from Earth, but they need to know much in advance. And if they don't know much in advance, then it could hit Earth. Now if there's just a little bit more closeness between this asteroid and Earth, an entire city and etc. would disappear then. Nature's forces. How can we be grateful to nature's forces? How do we give thanks to gravity, to the wind? Any ideas?
Try to maintain it and try to keep up, like not to destroy it, like the way we throw things around, and so value it and keep it clean, I guess.
That will lead to the next one. Your ideas are correct, but you can't destroy gravity, really speaking. You can't destroy the wind. You can't harm the wind. Tomorrow morning, not that the kids have to go to school, but you all have to go to work. We usually rush out in the morning to go to work, to go to school, to run our errands. Before doing that, go outside, onto the sidewalk or onto the grass, close your eyes, fold your hands. If you don't feel comfortable folding your hands, just put your hands by your side and just make one circle. Just do one. Turn around and smile. And feel the gravity and the wind and the sun and all of nature's forces. By being grateful, we do pay off that debt. Think of a mother. Can a child ever pay off a debt to a mother or a father? All a mother or father wants is, not even do they want a child to say thank you, but that sense of gratitude. So, Devarina. Closer than that is our Bhutarina. Bhuta means creatures. Trees, snails, worms, bats, flowers, bananas. All of these creatures. If there were no snakes in the world, because we have this great fear of snakes, what are the repercussions of a reduced snake population?
More rodent.
More rodents. Then the repercussion of that is less wheat, less sugar, less rice. Indians, we'd fall apart without these things. We have a debt we owe to nature's forces. Trees. What if trees said, that's it, we're going to take in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide all the time? What would happen to us then? We owe a debt to nature, to the creatures of this world. How do we pay that debt off? As was shared, live in harmony with these creatures. I'll give you an example. Native Indians had a philosophy that before they cut down one tree, they would plant 10. Which makes it impossible for there ever to be a shortage of trees. One of our secretaries for Chinmaya Mission, she grew up in Bangkok. Any water that was poured in a glass in their home had to be drunk. Even if you're so full or didn't want it. But there's a water shortage as she grew up. Now when we go to restaurants, they just keep pouring and pouring. Even I'm about to get up from my table and they'll fill it up again. Right? We should say no, I'm not going to drink it. Live in harmony. Closer than that is our Samajrina. The reason to be grateful towards society. What has society done for us? Teachers, firefighters, ambulance, people that pick up garbage. You know, we've no countries where people don't pick up garbage. It just keeps accumulating on the street. During these austerity measures in Greece, they didn't pick up the garbage there. So what happens? Stink, disease, it's ugly. We live in a society where these systems are in place for our benefit. How do we pay off the debt to our samaj? How many hours a week do we have? Let's see if anyone is studying their time. Did someone say 50? 168 hours. If everyone gave 1% of their time, that's only 2 hours a week, rounding up. 1%, 2 hours, to volunteering, this nation would be totally different. Suppose there's 350 million people that live in America, and if 2 hours a week were volunteered, that's 700 million hours of volunteering. Put minimum wage to that. Times 10 becomes $7 billion a week that we infuse into the economy rather than take out of the economy. Right? We're trying to save money in so many ways. Here's a way. 1%. Imagine someone gave 2%. The way society gives to us, let us give back. Closer than that is our Pitarina. The debt we owe to our, what does Pitar mean? Technically? Father. To our families. Our parents, our grandparents, our cousins, our siblings. I once read an email where a corporate trainer walks into a room with a glass of water and holds it like this. She's a female. Most of the executives are males, and she asks, "Is this heavy?" And they all laugh in a rude way, saying, "Probably for you." And she says, "But what if you have to hold it all day? Even if you have to hold it for 15 minutes, this will become heavy for me." And what she was saying there is that this is like stress. If I have to hold stress for a minute, it's okay, but if I have to hold stress for an hour, it becomes more and more and more heavy. Now that makes me think of a mother who for 9 months holds an entity that is between 5 or 15 pounds, depending on how heavy we are. 9 months has to change the way they sleep, change the way they eat, change the way they do everything. What can we do to pay off the debt to our mothers, to our fathers who earned for us, protected us, taught us our values, how to wear Indian clothes, how to cook, how to speak? How can we pay off that debt or be grateful? I'll ask some of our Balavira students for this answer. Anyone? Okay, parents, what do you want from your
Long list.
Simple way is what Maya Angelou says. If you get, give. If you learn, teach. Make sure what you're learning continues. Remember in some of our Balavira camps we do a puja. And I've asked many times, how many of you learned how to do a puja? How many of you know puja vidhi? Nobody does. Rare is the person who does. Which means with this group of people here, puja vidhi is now or will die. That's the fact of the matter. It is our responsibility to learn and to teach, otherwise that will end. And if that language will happen the same, how could Bhagan Bharta will happen and everything, right? If I don't teach, this will all end. So let us teach. And the closest rina is our rishi rina. The debt we owe to our rishis. I just mentioned Swami Vivekananda. You know he slept in a garbage can that one night in Chicago because he had nowhere to stay, and that's the only way that would stop the wind from hitting his skin. In a garbage can. If you've seen Uttarkashi, where Gurudev studied, or Swami Chinmaya, his pillow was a rock. Imagine this is bedrock, like a flat piece of rock. That was his pillow. We would be uncomfortable putting our feet on that rock because it'd be too cold, and he's sleeping on this. Uttarkashi. There's no hot water or central heating or blankets over there. What did our rishis do for us? They've taught us how to be happy. What often our secular school teachers do not or cannot, that's where our rishis step in and teach us how to be happy. Now, how can we express gratitude to our rishis? Live what they've taught. That's how. If we don't live what they've taught, what was the point of their sacrifice, their dedication towards us? What was the first rina? Deva. In English? Nature's forces. Number 2, closer than that? Bhuta rina. English? Creatures. Good. Number 3, Samadrina. English? Society. Closer? Family. And closest? Which means our spiritual teachers, our acharyas, our gurus. Why I'm sharing this is what should be done on Thanksgiving, not what society is forcing upon us for Thanksgiving. And that's why, just like we chant Brahmarpanam before we eat, here's another practice to remember these rinas. When we sit down to eat, after we chant Brahmarpanam, take 5 small bites of your food. If there's rice there, 1 grain, 2 grain, 3 grain. And as I eat each grain or each morsel, remember these 5 parties. It's beautiful because my food will taste better. And by doing it with food, we remember this often. And coming back to the subject. Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, these are ways to express our love, to offer our gratitude. Sanatana Dharma, the specialty, the practicality of Sanatana Dharma, this is why we have festivals every month. Makar Sankranti, Mahashivratri, Holi, Ram Navami. You see, every month there's a festival. Why? To bring my mind from here to there. just like these secular celebrations, Valentine's, Thanksgiving. Think deeper about the purpose. Otherwise, it just becomes a transaction. Valentine's Day, buy candy. Thanksgiving, fight people at Walmart because Black Friday is coming. The idea of expressing love in every direction is the same purpose as marriage. And so, the reason that we've gathered tonight for this satsang is to explore the significance of marriage. And this is how a real Valentine's Day should be celebrated, where we reunite with this fundamental relationship between significant others. And I know many of our Balarya students don't have significant others. You're being proactive. They're all being reactive. You're being proactive. So whether you're understanding anything or not, don't worry. There is some benefit that is taking place. Okay. The significance of marriage. We're going to take it from this level to this level to this level, and then we're going to focus on the application. So we begin at this level. The significance of marriage at a physical level. What is that significance? It is to ensure that a species continues in a disciplined way. Animals also ensure that the species continues, but they often don't have marriages, do they? We have an intellect, which means we can go up or down. We're called yoga yonis. Animals are bhoga yonis. They can only move up. So it's much simpler for them. Everything is black or white, and really it's instinct, not discrimination. So we need to ensure our species continues too, but we have to bring in discipline. And that's tomorrow's topic is, why discipline? See, we have this basic attraction to the opposite gender or the same gender, whatever it may be. And if I don't infuse that with discipline, then I'm the same as an animal. But I'm not an animal. I am a human being. It's taken trillions of years for me to become a human being. I need to live up to that. This is why our scriptures have come up with the ashramas. That I have this fundamental or basic physical urge, let it be regulated. So get into the grahastha-ashrama. That's a physical significance of marriage. We have a Dharma Shastra to teach us about Dharma. We have an Artha Shastra, it's called economics. Kama Sutra 2 is how to enjoy marriage in a disciplined manner. Moksha Shastra, that's what we're used to studying at Chinmaya Archana. See our scriptures embrace this need. Make sure it's done with discipline, with regulation. The significance of marriage at a physical level is also safety. We feel more safe in such environments where we're with our significant other. It's also, at a physical level, a way to share assets. Right? There's tax benefits to being married. We're very tricky when it comes to this. I heard of one lady who somehow her mother had passed away, but she never registered it so she can keep collecting the benefits that come with her mother, that pension or whatever it may be coming. Some people, because if you get married, there's also tax consequences too, so some people don't acknowledge that they're married. But my point in that is the sharing that takes place at a physical level, with the body, with safety, with assets as well. So this is the significance. Now as we rise to the mental level, what is the significance of marriage at a mental level? It is to support society. What is the Sanskrit word for marriage? Vivaha. Vivaha means to nourish, to uphold, to sustain, Now, based on our study of Vedanta, what does Dharma mean? To nourish, to uphold, to sustain, to integrate. See how Vivaha and Dharma are synonyms of each other. The Grahastha ashrama supports all of the other ashramas. Those people who are married in this room right now, aren't you responsible for your children? They can't look after themselves if they're not of that age. Now often, we have to look after our parents as well. Correct? Our parents depend on us to drive at least. Indian parents that are in this country, they definitely need rides to go here and there. And then the sannyasis as well. They also depend on someone hosting them, someone offering bhiksha, and so on. If I pull out this block out of this tower, what happens to the tower? It collapses then. We support society. And Pujya Swami Tejamananda had shared that Chinmaya mission is built on two pillars, the Acharyas and the Grihasthas. And if either pillar is removed, then this organization will fall. That's why there's a dynamic balance between both. Even now in the Vedanta course, Arunachala and Priya are studying. They're from Columbus, Grihasthas, that are learning the scriptures at it and on an active level. In our Smriti, there's a message that says, the responsibility of a brahmachari is seva. The responsibility of a grahastha is dhanam, is charity. The responsibility of a vanaprasthi. Now, how do you know if you're a vanaprastha or not? We discussed this 2 years ago. The first satsang was on the journey of life. How do you know if you're a vanaprastha? Because your knees hurt. The day you see the face of your first grandchild, and or you turn 60, is the day that you become a vanaprastha. That is the day where you have to leave your home and live in the forest. Ready? It doesn't mean physically living in the forest for two reasons. Number one, it's illegal. The government will want taxes. Number two is that we're not trained to live in the forest like people were back in the day. Vanaprastha is characterized by two expressions. Number one, non-indulgence. And when I become 60 or my grandchild is alive now, I am not to indulge in Devo ke Dev, Mahadev, and eating too much and so on. Indulge. If you watch it, good, but not to indulge in it. Episode after episode after episode. And non-interference. So non-indulgence and non-interference. That if my child is raising my grandchild like this, step away. We Indians have great troubles with this idea of non-interference, and I'll tell you why. And if you disagree, it's because you're not being honest with yourself. Indians are pack rats. We do not know how to let go of articles. We keep the same clothes year after year after year. I'll use it. We'll die before we use it. I'm saving this for your wife. I'm saving this for your husband. We just don't know how to let go of materials, which is why it's so hard for us to let go of beings. When your sons and daughters are a little bit older, every time I went away to university, I went away for school, my mother cried. Every time. Obviously I have to go to school. This is going to happen. Why the tears then? See, we find it very difficult to let go because we're not training ourselves. A vanaprastha's responsibility, their dharma, is niyama, discipline. That's what I told you about non-indulgence and non-interference. And the responsibility of a sannyasi, their dharma, is the first of the Shat Sampati. So here's a quiz for you. Shama, good. Calmness of mind. So seva, then dana, niyama, shama. And why I'm pointing this out is A grihastha gives wealth, a sannyasi gives knowledge. This is the point of a caste system, isn't it? Everyone gives what they're best at. And if someone doesn't give what they're best at, that system is not full. I hope everyone's tuning into the perfection of our scriptures and how visionary our rishis were. Rishi literally means seer. They did see 5,000, 10,000 years in the future. So the significance of marriage is to support society, to practice dhanam, and also it gives children clarity. Because really, what a government says that these two people are married, only the government says that. But if those people hate each other, that's not marriage. And just because people are not married but they love each other, who said that's not marriage then? But for children, they do need, these are my parents. Correct? It provides that clarity to them. So at a mental level, this is the significance. So at a physical level, at a mental level, and why I'm sharing this is we have to often revisit this. What is the purpose in what I am doing? For those who are not married, ask yourself two questions. It's not just about marriage. Anything we do in life, two questions. Why am I doing it? And whom am I doing this for? Because if I don't ask that question, it's just a ritual. And Swami Sanatana shares a nice insight into rituals. Back in the day in India, they had huge families. And they lived in huge homes because everyone lived together. And they had a nice courtyard in the front. Everyone's been to such a home before?
Yes.
And the eldest male facilitated the morning and evening puja. So the grandfather, as he's preparing all of his materials, these are big houses again. There's a cat and cats, other animals, they wander around. So he would tell his oldest son, tie up that cat so it doesn't disturb our puja. So that would become the son's responsibility. And this continued. As time passed, they moved to the city. The grandfather passed away. Now it's the eldest son's responsibility to facilitate that puja. Now they're living in an apartment now. They're living in the city. So as he's preparing all of his materials and it's the first time he's doing puja, he calls his son and says, "Go find a cat and tie it before we begin our puja." Isn't that how rituals continue? When I don't ask why or for whom? And even those who are married, we should ask, why am I married? It doesn't mean, okay, don't get married, undo that marriage, but it is to strengthen. Why did I make this choice? For whom is this marriage? Which leads us to the main point of the significance of marriage. This is at the intellectual level. What is that significance? It is to train oneself to see the Lord in a specific being. That is the significance of marriage. There is no other purpose in life other than enlightenment. If I think I have another agenda other than enlightenment, then I've not understood the nature of life. This is it. Knowing this, how can I start seeing the Lord? How can I start being enlightened? With a being first. In our samskaras, the 13th samskara, which is called vivaha, a traditional Vedic ceremony is 3 full days of ceremonies. As we hear this, we think, we've done much better. Now we have a week-long celebration of marriage. But how long is the ceremony? Half an hour. How long is the drinking and dancing? 6 days. 3 full days. And at the end of that Vedic ceremony, what is everyone in the audience supposed to do? Bow down to that new couple. Because during this ceremony, not only for the couple, But everyone that is there to witness and bless the couple, they are to evolve in their vision away from a male and a female to Narayana and Lakshmi. Shiva, Parvati. That doesn't matter. Traditionally we say Lakshmi Narayana. So I am supposed to prostrate to them as someone who is in the audience or to bless them. But this is Bhagavan. Now imagine, and this is the sad part of our weddings now, is that nobody's paying attention. Not even the priest. Because nobody else knows the mantras, he can say whatever he wants. This, I don't know where I heard this. I think Puja Swami Tejamananda shared with us that when classical singers forget words, they just start singing their address, but they just go, and they just keep singing their address. Nobody else knows what's going on. So that wonderful. So the same way, nobody's paying attention, because if that female and male, male, female, whoever it is, if they believe that, how can there ever be selfishness? How can there ever be anger, hatred, lack of forgiveness? If I'm married to the mother of the universe, how can I not devote myself to her then? How can a mother-in-law ever oppress, or a father-in-law never ever disrespect whoever those kids are? Impossible. This is where Lord Rama had said, Eka Vachani, Eka Bani, and Eka Patni. We think of this, Lord Rama was just saying this because it's poetic. Eka Vachani, only speak the truth. And what is the truth? Whenever we think of truth, we think of spoken word. And so if I say something and you can't catch that I'm lying, it's the truth, and you've not caught me. But the only person who really knows I'm lying is me. When I don't live up to my intellect, that's dishonesty. That's asatya then. So Lord Rama, when he says Ekavachani, it's not just his word, but his actions and thoughts match that too. Lord Shiva's Trishul, because Mahashivratri is coming up, shows that he has his thoughts, words, and deeds under his control. Ekavachani. Ekabani, what does that symbolize? Simplicity. Lord Rama lived very simply, didn't he? In the forest he did. In the kingdom he lived very simply too. He didn't have this elaborate array of weapons. Simple. It's like in our scriptures. The lesser the better. Brevity is power. Etc. etc. He only had one arrow, really speaking. It only took one arrow to meet his target. Single pointedness. And unlike his father, Eka Patni. Eka Patni, only one wife. So I should be more clear. Eka Vachani means one word. He said that once I speak it once, I don't need to say it again. Eka Bani, once I release my arrow, it will hit the mark. Eka Patni, only one wife. Not just in relationship, but he never thought about another woman either. And this applies the opposite way too, okay? All the women are thinking, yeah, Eka Patni. The males are thinking, what? It goes both ways. And when we did the last satsang I was at last year, remember I read to you about what is Sanatana Dharma's interpretation of homosexual marriages? And I read you that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. Male, male, female, female, whatever one's orientation is, only one. And this is why it's shown further in Ramayana. When Mother Sita sees that golden deer, the deer is called a mriga. That's why when we do our invocation during Vishnu Sahasranama, we say, Veda Vyasa Rishihi. May my mind remember Veda Vyasa Rishi. Anushtup Chandaha. May my mind focus on Anushtup Chandaha. Shri Vishwarupo Mahadevata. We always use this symbol. My mind. When Mother Sita, who represents devotion, when her mind goes after the deer, which means it's not with Lord Rama. And look what happens. our minds, when it leaves my spouse, when my mind leaves my spouse, there's a whole series of repercussions that will happen. And nobody may catch it, but I will know what I am thinking and how I'm acting. And this is why a wife is called a Saha Dharma Charari. Raja Janaka takes Mother Sita's hand and puts it in Lord Rama's hand and says, she will be your Saha Dharmachari. Don't think that she will take you away from Dharma. That she will walk the path of Dharma with you. She will support you. She will nourish you. She will integrate you. And vice versa. You lead her. He will support you in your path of Dharma. He's indirectly saying to his daughter. So the significance of marriage at an intellectual level is upasana. Upasana, upa means near, asana means sit. I should sit near my spouse and train myself that my eyes will see their physical self, but this mind will see Bhagavan inside of them. And I will devote myself to them. I will worship them. This is what the significance of marriage is. Totally opposite of what society is telling us today. That you have rights over the other person. Conversely, you have duties to the other person. Rights is this way. Duties is that way. See the difference? See the need for satsang to correct what society teaches us? When I was in business school, I was paying $15,000 a year to learn how to multitask. A few years later, I paid $0 a year while I was studying at Sandipni to learn that multitasking is not possible. That the mind, you can only have one thought at a time. See how I needed to go to Sandipni to undo all of the learning that the business school teaches? This is the importance of Bala Vihar. To fix what you learned in the weekend, to reconcile that. Like accounts, you have to reconcile it every month. This is what Bala Vihar does. Physical, mental, intellectual. Now before we study the application of now what are we supposed to do with everything we've thought about today, I'm going to test you on what I've shared thus far. Nobody's sleeping, so that's so far so good. Some people are making notes. Good for you. Okay, ready. What is the 5-letter word that I told you about?
Smile.
Smile. What is the most burning word?
Jealousy.
What is the message? What was the word that the message was? Achieve it.
Success.
Good. Okay, next. What is the purpose of Thanksgiving?
Gratitude.
Offer gratitude in every direction. What is the Sanskrit word for? What is the Sanskrit word for society? The debt we owe to society.
Samana.
What is the first debt we owe?
Dev.
How do I offer gratitude to the rishis? Live, be happy. Good. I'm impressed. So far, so good. Now we get into the tough parts. What is the first significance of marriage at a physical level? Procreate with discipline. Just like this LG TV or this watch or whatever, the refrigerator, what did all of these things come with? Instruction manual, correct. We too have been given an instruction manual. What is it called?
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the instruction manual on how to live. Let me rewind. LG produces the instruction manual, correct? Sony doesn't produce LG's instruction manual, correct?
Yes.
So now, naturally the instruction manual that I should have should be created by the creator. That's why Bhagavad Gita. Whose song is it? It's not my song or your song.
Bhagavan.
It is the Lord's song. And why do I read how to use this Seiko watch? To get maximum benefit from the watch. Why should I study Bhagavad Gita? To get maximum benefit from life. So knowing that at a physical level I have attraction to my spouse, it should be with discipline. So how to learn that? Read these instruction manuals. Gita, Vedas, etc., etc. At a mental level, what is the significance of marriage? To support society. I was in a satsang a few months ago, and I asked everyone, last lecture, 60 people in the room or so, how many of you will be enlightened in this lifetime? And one man put his hand up, and he looked around and saw nobody had their hand up, so he put his hand up. And I was thinking, I said, you probably don't even know these people. You probably don't even care about these people, but you're willing to give up the purpose of life for these people? And why I'm saying this is because you all know the answer to what I just said, but I heard someone mumble in the background and said, what is this? Say it with confidence. You know this. Say it with confidence too. This is why in the business world we say always write your goals down on paper. It has a stronger impact then. To support society. Now I had shared that the Smriti says what is the Sanskrit word for what a vanaprastha should do? What is their dharma or a vanaprastha in Sanskrit? Niyama. Good. Discipline. For the English word for a brahmachari. Service. Grahastha. Sannyasi.
Calmness.
Shama. Calmness. Very good. To support society. And now we just explored the significance of marriage at the intellectual level is to see the Lord in my spouse. And now I'm only focusing on marriage, but there's many ways that our scriptures teach us about seeing the Lord in your kids, seeing the Lord in your neighbors, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. And please don't be confused. Devo Bhava doesn't mean Eva. Eva means like God. Bhava means is God. That's the confusion. We say mother is like God. Mother is God. If you take away like, it's a much stronger and more truthful message. We put Eva in there. But it's not Eva. It's not like. Is. Who am I going to see God in first? Naturally. My mother. Who has offered me who has dedicated themselves most to me? A mother. Now at a metaphysical level, who dedicates themselves more to us other than God? Guru, right? But see, my point is that this is how we have to see God in these expressions. When we were in Mumbai before the World Workers' Conference, then Guruji, Swami Tejumananda, was teaching Bhakti Yoga in Dadar, in Mumbai. 3,000 people a night. And he spoke in Hindi. It was beautiful. And he was sharing with us, we often think God is our wish fulfiller. We want God to be our wish fulfiller. But he or she, it is not our wish fulfiller. They are our well-wisher. Just like a parent. A parent is not a wish fulfiller. They are a well-wisher. If a child could decide what they want to eat all day, it would be cereal, Lucky Charms 4 times a day. But a parent doesn't do that. Well-wisher, meaning you eat some of this and some of this and some of this. And understanding this, sometimes God doesn't give us what we want. Sometimes He does give us what we want. Sometimes He doesn't give us what He wants. He makes us wait. He makes us wait for something that is better. This is the idea of being a well-wisher. See how a mother has these qualities and a father has these qualities and God has these qualities? So I have to learn to see God in my mother, my father, my guru, and my spouse. And after my spouse, my children. After my children, the neighbor's children. This is high Vedanta. If this is all Sat Chit, existence awareness, and this is Anantam, how can you not be God then? But I live like you're not God. See the problem? I need training then. Adults study Vedanta for a different reason than kids study Vedanta. Kids study to learn, adults study to unlearn. Kids study and they put glasses on, adults have surgery to remove the myopia and cataracts and so on. But everyone is just trying to see. This will make the world a better place. I was in Niagara Falls and I was walking to my car and a girl came up to me and asked me if I had any money. I may have shared this with you. In my mind, when she had said that, I laughed to myself. It shows how this mind works. Sheila movement, right? That's what you're studying in self-unfoldment. I thought to myself that people don't ask me for money, I ask people for money. I said no. She was just asking. She wasn't harming me. And she said, you have some paint on your forehead. I was wearing my dika. It's not paint, it's sandalwood paste. Why are you wearing it? It symbolizes, it's a reminder to me that you and I are one. And she says, no, we're not married. See how that idea of oneness, how it's if you exchange wedding rings. Sheila and I, my wife, Sheila, and I never exchange wedding rings. Right? That doesn't mean someone's married or not married. It means I'm cheap and she's pleasant. But the point is that we need this to make this world better, starting with me and continuing outwards like that. And I'll share one more real life incident about how this works. This is a general observation. Please take it as a general observation. Because I drive so much, I listen to a lot of NPR. And I heard that families that have a single child, when they get into relationships, and why they're talking about this is China. In China for a long time they've had a single child policy. And now in China divorces are growing at a faster and faster and faster rate. And they're finding is because those single people, when they're together, they haven't learned how to fight and forgive and share, and all of that comes with siblings, cousins, etc. If we can train ourselves now to see the divine in all, that will never happen. They're not given that training. This girl who asked me for money is not given that training. Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. Application. Gurudev uses the example, Pujya Swami Chinmayananda. Tea by nature has what flavor? It is bitter. So to make tea consumable, what do we do? Add sugar. Now if I put sugar into my tea and I drink it and it's still bitter, two challenges. One of the challenges is there's not enough sugar. And if there is enough sugar but it's not sweet, what has not happened? I have not stirred that sugar. Right? Life, by nature, is also bitter. I'm just using it poetically. Life by nature is not bitter. Life by nature is challenging. Right? Everyone can agree with that? Life by nature is challenging. Whether you're 2 years old or 102 years old, everyone has their own challenges. The Grahastha has their challenges. The sannyasi has their challenges too. Everyone does. So what do we do to smoothen out these challenges? We put in knowledge. Now, if my life is not smooth, two challenges, two problems. Either there's not enough knowledge, or I've not internalized, assimilated, practiced that knowledge. It's still knowledge and not wisdom. Now, for the people sitting in this room, I don't think the first problem is applicable. Nobody in this room lacks knowledge. We study self-unfoldment, you have discourses regularly, satsangs regularly, online availability of Guruji's discourses, etc. So if my life is still not smooth, it's because I'm not practicing. Here are 3 ways to live the significance of marriage. Okay? First insight, first thought. Males and females are, fill in the blank. Don't say human beings, I know that. Males and females are God, good. I'm looking for another word.
Complementary. Human.
Equal. Males and females, husbands and wives are equal. This challenge, this smoothness doesn't come because one thinks the other is superior than the other. And in many cases, it's the male who doesn't believe the female is equal. And I'll tell you why this has happened. Our religion worships women more than any other religion. We have a full 10-day period where only Mata is remembered. Only. And like I said, Matra Deva Bhava, first guru is not even Acharya. First guru is Matra. Kerala, in Bengal, they're matriarchal societies, not patriarchal. What had happened is that traditionally, boys and girls have their thread ceremony, their upanayana done. But for females, when one goes through their menstrual cycle, they have to take off that thread and put on a new one. And it's a small ritual that takes place, half an hour maybe. And so for whatever reason, lack of knowledge or laziness, whatever one wants to interpret it as, they stopped getting their thread ceremony done. And if you don't get your thread ceremony done, that means you can't go to the Gurukul. And the Gurukul doesn't just teach knowledge, but also economics, like I just talked about, farming, how to be a global citizen, all around knowledge. Almost like prep school. Prep school teaches you everything, like that. Which means then they don't get educated, and if someone is not educated, in society they're not equals. They are at a spiritual level, no doubt, but in a societal level, if I haven't graduated from high school and you have a university degree, I'm not going to be treated in the same way. It's just not how society works. So, we have to unlearn that. Everyone is equal. Now, roles may not be the same. Equal doesn't mean same. Someone could earn money, someone could raise the child. Their roles are not the same. It's not, but they're still both equal in importance. Acharya Gauranga had once shared that how tangible this mind is. Even why we brought bananas and oranges. What you're given right now is your prasad. But we want something in our hand to say that, yes, I actually got something. Even though for 90 minutes we're learning about life-changing knowledge, but I want the banana. So the same way, there've been so many studies where the traditional mother who cooks and cleans and drives and does administration, etc. And the husband goes to work in a professional setting and he comes home with a paycheck and she doesn't get one, so she doesn't work. Many people still think like that. My friends still think like that about me. I don't get a paycheck, so apparently I'm unemployed. Which is good. It's good. It keeps me humble then for people to think that. So equal. Equal does not mean sameness. Each has their own roles. Each has their own responsibilities. Let everyone do the best to what they're supposed to do. If we can apply that, we will see the dynamics of our relationship totally changing. That if someone is not well and the other person has to do the dishes, so what? Doesn't make someone better or worse. If someone chooses to stay at home and not work, if that happens to be the mill, so what? We have to break these preconceived notions that we have about inequality. We all know inequality at the workplace kills the workplace. It just poisons one and then the next person and the next person. This is what happens in relationships too. Inequality creates poison. So let us do the opposite person's work. That's a good way to do this. How to deal with the mind? Always do what the mind tells you not to do. So in the same way, if I'm not supposed to do this because my wife is supposed to do this, I should do that then. It'll help me be humble. Okay? Now it's your call whether you would like to practice this or not. Equals. Second area of application. Resolution. Is conflict bad? Is conflict negative? It is if it's without resolution, without the focus of resolution. If I fight with you but I don't want to get along with you, that's negative. It's better that we don't fight. But if we happen to get into a conflict but we're both focusing on resolution, that's good for the relationship. It keeps one sharp. It keeps one sacrificing. It keeps one listening, learning, adapting. Even in the workplace, conflict is not something to be avoided. If it happens, it happens. But let there be resolution. This is why we become so fearful of conflict, is because we don't want to resolve. It requires more effort. But it makes one better. Going to the gym requires effort, but it makes one healthier, doesn't it? So resolution. That whatever happens, that I will continue to speak with my spouse. Because often we just don't speak about it and hope it's forgotten. But it's never forgotten. It just keeps accumulating. If I speak about it, at least I can sweep it out or vomit it out, whatever it is. And often, time does help. If I'm not willing to speak to my wife tonight, but tomorrow morning, but I have to hit that ego hard in, just say, how are you feeling? What's on your mind? What did I do wrong? Whatever it is. And a good way to make this real is if you insult each other all the time, then real insults don't have any harm. I'm serious. If you tease each other all the time, then you are always living very lightly then. It's great. That even if when one gets in a fight, then one is willing to talk about it more quickly. Because the teasing is always happening. We're so serious all the time with each other, so anything that happens becomes so serious. Our problems, if they're a mountain, we should make them like a molehill. Another person's problems, if they're a molehill, we should treat them like it's a mountain. So I should be open to talking to them about that. And now the last point on application. And this is the secret to being with people, not just with a spouse, with a child, with a subordinate, with a superior. The secret. Are you ready? This is going to change your life forever. But you have to be ready for it. The secret is plea. Which is an acronym. What does P stand for? How to be with people. What does P stand for?
Pleasant. Patience.
Pray, exactly. Pray. What is Ishvara? Ishvara is the collective mind, isn't it? The total mind, as we study in Tattva-boda. So our minds are connected. So if I send a prayer to the one who's controlling this total mind, the only one who puts thoughts into the mind and takes thoughts out is Ishvara. So if I want a thought to get into your mind or a thought to leave your mind, why don't I go through the boss? it doesn't make sense why I wouldn't go through the boss. Lord Krishna talks about this so thoroughly in chapter 7. He says, why would you worship small g gods when you can worship me? They get their power from me. Then someone said, but it doesn't work like that in society. If I want to talk to the president of the United States, I have to go through my statesperson and then Joseph Biden, etc., etc. This is God, not the president. God is everywhere. God is everyone. These systems, societal rules don't apply to God. I can go straight to God. Right now I can go straight to God. So pray. Please understand what I'm trying to say. Or please let go of that anger that's in your heart. Please let go of that animosity you have towards this person or that person or that person. Whatever it is. And what Sambhiji, our Upacharya, he studied under Swami Ishwarananda and then he taught our batch along with Guruji. He said our only prayer should be to the Lord that may we vanish. May the ego vanish is the implication. Because ego is anti-God. And I just said that our upasana is to try to see God in the other person, but if the ego is there, I can't see God in you. So I have to pray that may I vanish. And this is where Ramakrishna Paramahansa talks about the 3 Ks that kill. What are those 3 Ks? Kamini. Lust. Technically means woman, but it means lust. Kanchana. Technically means gold, means greed. And Kirti, which technically means, Kirti is a nice name. It means praise, it means fame. But it means ego, essentially. Arrogance. So when I pray to vanish, Kamini and Kanchana are still relatively tangible. Lust and greed, it's something I can touch, but Kirti is much more subtle. Like an enemy I cannot see. That's why these prayers, and I tell you, prayers are answered. In our time of need, if we put our heart if we ante up our heart, God will return that much stronger than what we anteed up with it. Pray. L.
Love.
Love is good. It's something else. More practical.
Listen. Life.
Listen is good too. Life is good too.
Love.
Shloka 21, chapter 3. Yad yad acharati shishtaha tad tadevetaro janaha. I'm speaking in French right now. Lead. Lead by example. Whatever I want to be in another person or not be in another person, first has to be here. Sri Aurobindo says morality cannot be taught, it can only be caught. One of our Balvir students in this city, this is 2 years ago, I was teaching, and this Balvir student was so fidgety. He was looking at me that he turned around completely and was facing the wall. And I'm still teaching and he's facing the wall. And I asked in a stern voice, what is the answer to this? And he turned around and gave me the exact answer that I wanted. Then he follows up and says, Vivekji, did you think I wasn't listening? At that point I learned that kids observe and absorb everything. That was the day I learned to be more vigilant with Balavira students. And I just heard recently on the radio, NPR again, a CBC, that's a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, you know Canada? I have to remind Americans that Canada exists.
Up north.
Someone would say down south. Yeah, that small country underneath America. They're doing a study, and they're confident in saying that a music that a 12-year-old listens to goes on to affect their personality. They've done studies where if someone listens to heavy metal or or hip hop, that it causes these tendencies as they become older, where they have tools to use this then. See, that absorption. And this is why in Vedic culture, in the morning, we play Vishnu Sahasranama or Purusha Suktam, even if everyone's doing their own thing, cooking, doing their homework, whatever it is, looking out the window, but that absorption is still taking place. Osmosis works, right? Radiation works. Naturally, the thoughts will be much stronger. So lead by example. Pray, lead, E. What is E in plea? Guess.
Excel.
Effort.
Ego. Empathize.
Close. These are all verbs. Pray, lead. Empathize is close. Engage. Where did the original Ramayana take place? Who is the original discussion happening between? The original Valmiki Ramayana.
Shiva and Parvati.
Yes, correct. Good for you. Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati. Lord Shiva is discoursing to Mother Parvati. And the Ramayana originally was Shata Koti. 100 crore shlokas. That's 1 billion shlokas. And every once in a while, she would ask a question to Lord Shiva. Last shloka that Arjuna speaks is shloka 8 of chapter 2. And he says, he drops his weapon, the Gandiva falls. He sits in his chariot, he says, not only will I not fight, I will also not speak. But then in shloka 54, he asks a question. How does the master think? How does the master speak? How does the master sit? How does the master walk? Every one of our scriptures is a samvada, is a discussion. Someone a little bit more knowledgeable is sharing to someone who's a little bit less knowledgeable, and they're allowed to, this person is trying to bring this person to, not even equal, but higher. So often we play mind games with each other. I expect you to know what I want, or that this makes me mad, or this makes me happy. And these mind games continue. And nobody sees eye to eye then. But if we just sat down and engaged in a dialogue, we could be that much more efficient and effective. Those involved in the academic world. First day of high school, university, your professor, your teacher gives you the syllabus. This is what you're going to study. This is how you're going to get your marks. This assignment, this exam, etc. And it's only one directional. That's the problem. He or she tells you, but how come you're not allowed to tell them what you want to learn, how you want to learn? It should be like that. This engagement needs to take place. My mother-in-law is a forensic psychiatrist, and I was doing a series of talks on mindful living with one's health, home, and honorarium, meaning work. So before I was preparing for this, she gave me a book on marriage therapy. And when she gave it to me, I knew secretly she gave it to me because I'm married to her daughter. And I did read it, and the point that I took away at an application level, it's that couples, and the whole family can do this, even at the workplace. Everyone should write down on a sheet of paper what makes them happy, what makes them unhappy, and then give that sheet to the respective party. You sleeping in past this amount of time makes me unhappy. You doing this makes me happy, whatever it is. Instead of playing mind games with each other, why not be clear? This is what I like, this is what I don't like. Then at least I can try to be like that, rather than me just guessing. Don't we do that? And Indians with mind games when it comes to food, you know, if when I'm hungry and you ask me, am I hungry, I'm going to say no. But then I get mad, how come you didn't give me food, you know? Just say you're hungry or say you're not hungry. These mind games. Like Bhiksha. When someone says at Bhiksha, do you want more, and you say yes, you get 2 servings. You say no, You get one serving. Only when you cover your plate fully and after they're trying to put it on your plate. But if you fight them out, then you don't get any serving. But again, mind game. I don't want any one serving. Oh, okay. So that, engage. Engage. Pray, lead, engage. A, last. And this is in sequence, by the way. This is to be practiced serially. First pray, then lead, then engage. Accept. Last is accept. I've done my part. I've prayed. I've led. I've engaged. Now I've done what I could. There is no choice. So I accept. Now accept can be broken into two as well. Into fight or flight. Fight means accept. Flight means leave. Now, in a family circumstance, this can only happen in rare circumstances where there's a lot of abuse. Accept, fight is not an option. It should be flight. Because if I can't grow in that environment, why am I in that environment? The workplace too, this applies. If that job is not working out for me, I've done what I'm supposed to do and all I can do. Now I have to accept full out or leave. In that order. In our scriptures, for anything to happen, there's a few interpretations. Here's one of them. You need Ishvara Kripa, Shastra Kripa, Guru Kripa, and Atma or Swakripa. What's in my hand? Only Swakripa, Atma Kripa. When I do this, the others will come. But if I don't do this, the others won't come. This is the exact opposite. When I've done the first three, then will I accept wholeheartedly and be at peace with it. But if I've not done these, that acceptance will be artificial. It's like doing your best and leaving the rest. If I'm happy, it means I've done my best. If I'm unhappy with an exam, work, dinner, whatever it is, it's because I never did my best then. P-L-E-A. Now some may be thinking, this is not application. I'll put it to you in a scenario to show how application worthy this is. I'll be specific too. I was in Minneapolis in July and we were discussing this. So I said, the scenario is, you know in Indian movies before the movie begins they put that disclaimer, no resemblance to anyone dead or alive, disclaimer. I'm putting that up right now, okay? I'm a Canadian citizen, I have a Canadian passport, and though I care what happens in America, I can't affect what happens to the political system in America. So, suppose the Republicans are winning. This is July 2012, okay? What to do? Enter, plea. Pray. Pray to Ishvara. That other people change their mind or start, being inclined towards the Democrats. Number 2, lead. Put a sign on your lawn that says, O and Joe 2012. Lead by example. Wear the colors. Number 3, engage. Invite everyone over for dinner, and then lock the door and start engaging them in a benefit consequence analysis. Don't let them leave. And then A is accept, which I said can be broken up into fight or flight. Fight is accept that Mitt Romney will be your new president, or flight, move to Canada. See how it works out perfectly? This is how to apply the philosophy of the significance of marriage at a physical, mental, intellectual level. This is how to apply it. Spouses are equals. There should be a focus on resolution. Equals, resolution, and plea. If we can do this, we will tune in to the significance of marriage. If we cannot practice this, marriage will be a ritual, where we do it, but we don't understand, we don't appreciate, and so we don't grow. Now like the sugar in the tea, it's up to us if we want tea to be bitter or sweet. I was at a center recently, and the study group coordinator there, his daughter died when she was 32. She was feeling uncomfortable in her chest, and she was at a friend's wedding weekend. The next day was the wedding. So she went to the physician and they said it's probably gas or something like that. Come back the next day. It turned out to be a heart murmur, which just became too intense, and she died. She was 32, their first child. And he couldn't deal with it. I don't know how anyone would deal with such a loss. So he turned to drinking. And it was only through the study and application of Vedanta that he came off of alcohol, and now he coordinates that study group, and you would never know. I only knew this because he told me this. That's how sweet life can be, that even when tea's so bitter, it can still become sweet by taking these thoughts and applying them in our head, heart, and hands. And so many more life experiences where I've met people, I'm sure you have in your own lives, about the worthiness of trying this. If you remember, a couple of years ago we did a satsang at Archana. It was a Sunday. And at the end of the satsang I had said, we can. And everyone said, we can. And I said, we must. And everyone said, we must. And then Saket was in the front and he goes, we wish. Instead of we will, he says we wish. So don't follow Saket's advice. We will.
Pandaji's family for hosting us.